What's the worst thing someone has ever done to you in your life? I was 7 when my parents' marriage ended. My dad had been having an affair, and once it came out, everything shattered fast. He moved out, remarried within a couple of years, and started a brand new family. New wife, new babies, new life. My mom never got over him. She stayed single, drank more and more over the years, and carried this raw, bleeding love for a man who had thrown her away. I became the only battleground they had left. Custody wasn't about me, it was about scoring points. Every birthday, every holiday, every half-term became a screaming match over whose turn it was. They'd cancel on each other at the last second, refuse to pick me up or drop me off somewhere random just to make the other one scramble. I learned very young that I was a burden neither of them particularly wanted. I got really good at being quiet, helpful, invisible. Anything to make whichever house I landed in that week slightly less annoyed by my existence. The night that still feels like it lives under my skin happened when I was 14. It was Christmas Eve. Dad and his perfect second family were in town and staying at a fancy hotel. The plan, if you could call it that, was that I'd spend the night with them and Christmas morning, then go to Mom's. When she dropped me at the hotel that afternoon, Dad met us in the lobby, already angry. They started arguing right there. He said they hadn't booked a room for me, the hotel was full, it was her turn anyway. Mom said he was dumping me on her again. I stood clutching my little overnight bag, already knowing how this ended. He walked away, she dragged me back to the car, drove home ranting the whole way about what a selfish bastard he was, parked outside her block, and told me to get out. I thought she meant we were going upstairs. Instead, she said, "Ring his hotel until they let you in, I'm not letting him win." Then she reached across, opened my door, and drove off. I was 14, tiny for my age, wearing a coat that was more holes than fabric. It was dark, freezing, and getting late. I walked back to Mom's door and buzzed until neighbors shouted at me to stop. Her lights were on, she just ignored me. I phoned the hotel from a payphone. My stepmom sounded mortified but said there was genuinely no space and I should go to Mom's. I had about £2.80 in change and nowhere to go. Eventually, I ended up in the multi-story car park near the high street. On the ground floor was a big, empty metal cabinet meant for a fire hose. The door didn't lock properly, and it was just about big enough to curl up in. So, that's what I did. I pulled my knees to my chest, wrapped my arms around myself, and tried to stop shaking. It smelled disgusting, and the wind still found its way in, but at least there was a roof. Close to midnight, maybe later, the snow started. I remember watching it fall under the orange streetlights and realizing nobody was coming. That's when I started crying, quiet, hopeless sobs that hurt my throat. I was so cold I couldn't feel my feet anymore. I didn't know I could walk 2 streets over and ask the police for help. My brain had been trained to believe that causing any more trouble would make both parents hate me even more. So I stayed in that metal box until morning. A few weeks later, after a string of incidents that finally got flagged to social services, I was taken into care. I phoned them myself one day when I was maybe 12 or 13, after Dad bought Mom out of our old 3-bedroom family home so he could sell it on. She moved into a 1-bedroom flat, and it became very clear there was no space for me. I rang social services and basically said, "Can you come and get me, please?" They did. And you know what? The children's home was the first place I ever felt safe. Proper meals, staff who noticed if you were sad, routines I could rely on. My key worker, Mark, was incredible. Calm, kind, funny in a dad joke kind of way. He came to parents' evenings, taught me how to budget, sat with me when I had nightmares. I still call him every Christmas Eve. He's the closest thing to a father I've ever had. I'm 35 now, and life looks nothing like it did back then. I left school, worked my arse off, bought my own house. And because I'm apparently built out of forgiveness I sometimes don't even understand, my mom lives with me now. She's been sober on and off for years, but the alcoholism that started after Dad left destroyed what little parenting ability she had left. I blame him more than her. He broke her, and she broke me in turn. She was a terrible mother, but she was also raised by a terrible mother. The cycle stops with me. My dad? Different story. When I was 15, living happily in the children's home, he suddenly decided it was embarrassing that his daughter was in care. He marched in, signed whatever paperwork he needed, and dragged me out. He'd gone from a grotty 1-bed flat to a huge 5-bedroom townhouse. He renovated properties for a living and was finally making real money. He put me in the box room under the stairs. Literally. Glass door, sloping ceiling you couldn't stand up in, single bed shoved against the wall. My younger half-siblings had massive bedrooms with all the toys and space you could want. I lasted a couple of months, then ran away to a hostel. I've barely spoken to him since. Some wounds don't heal. You just learn to live around them. Cold nights and the smell of snow still spike my pulse. Certain Christmas songs make me want to hide. But I survived. I built a life full of people who choose me every day. My mom, flawed, broken, remorseful in her own limited way, sleeps in the spare room I decorated for her. Mark still answers the phone on the second ring every Christmas Eve, same as always. And every year, when the snow starts to fall, I think of that scrawny, terrified 14-year-old girl curled up in a metal cabinet, believing she was utterly unlovable. I wish I could reach back through time and wrap her in a blanket, hand her a phone, and say, "You are enough. This night does not get to define you. There are people coming who will love you without keeping score. Just hold on." I held on. I'm still here.